श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रय विनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं। परमानन्दमाधवं परमानन्दमाधवम्। ॐ वाङ्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविरावीर्म एधि वेदस्य मआनिस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधीतेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्माम अवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु। अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव। जिह्वे पिबस्वामृतमेतदेव गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति। हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति। हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति। हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति। नारायण चैप्टर 2 वर्स नंबर 56 श्लोक नंबर 56। दुःखेष्वनुद्विग्नमनाः सुखेषु विगतस्पृहः वीतरागभयक्रोधः स्थितधीर्मुनिरुच्यते। दुःखेष्वनुद्विग्नमनाः Sukheshu vigata spruhah Vitaragha bhaya krodhah Sthitadhir muniruchyate. Supreme Consciousness Bhagavan Krishna answering the question of Arjun, talking about the man of realization, which is Arjun's question in verse number 54, asking the properties of a man of realization, how this man of realization is defined by the scriptures, by the people around, how this Mahatma or this man of realization defines himself, how does this person, man of realization, walk in the society, how does he sit, how does he speak? These are the questions which Arjun asked in verse number 54. Answering the question of Arjun, giving a series of pearls talking about the man of realization, Bhagwan rejoicingly explains the properties of a man of realization. And we have already seen verse number 55. We had seen the verse 56, the literal meaning last time. We will continue the meaning today from where we left in the last session. So we were seeing Bhagwan is talking about Sthitadihi Munihi Uchyate. Such a person, Arjun, I will call his intellect, Dhihi, Sthita, is firmly abiding or firmly placed in the self, means he or she is reveling in the self all the time, permanently placed in the self without a wavering intellect in totality, means he's already carved out an unwavering intellect in terms of the knowledge of the self and got firm abidance in the self. That's what Bhagavan says, Sthitadihi. Such a person, I will say, Munihi Uchyate. I will call such a person Munihi. Muni, I told you, it's Mananshil one who has got the ability, who has already settled his intellect, settled his antakarana, to not only see the correct truth of life, also keep seeing it all the time and deciphering what is real and unreal forever, and also able to manage his life through the pricks and pains of life, through the flow of life, with that vision of reality absolutely shining effulgent in front of him. For us, many of us may know that there is a self, there is supreme consciousness, there is God. We may call with any different name. We know, but that know is so light in us today that actually world shines in front of a world and worldly situations, world's objects, of the Einsteinian world of time, space and object shines in front of us much effulgent than actually the God who is the creator behind all these shining worldly objects. But the man of realization, for such a man of realization, the world loses its shine. Actually, I will use one word which I'm going to talk as we move along. For such a Mahatma, actually, the world ceases its existence. Or, let me say this way, the world is proved to be mithya, to be false for such a man of realization. Since this world becomes false for this man of realization, now remember one thing, when I say such words, there are depth behind these kind of words. I told you it's not that we can sit down and say, I say the world is false and the world will become false. No, it's not like that. It's a long journey of gaining the knowledge, it's clarifying all the doubts, clearing all the doubts, and slowly, gradually retracting yourself from the world, the Einsteinian world of time, space and object, and start to place yourself in the truth, which is the actually effulgent force behind all these false or mithya creation. So Bhagavan says, Arjun, such a person I'm going to call Sthita Dhihi. So when we were talking about such a man of realization, Bhagavan said in this verse a few things of what the kind of a property of such a Muni is. And I picked it up in a little bit explanation last time. We'll take it up from there in this session. Bhagavan says how this man will be. There are three things we need to understand from this verse. He says, and I'm talking to you about the cause and effect here. First, Bhagavan gives the effect. What is the effect? Bhagavan says, this man of realization is Dukkheshu Anudvigna Manaha. His mind or his internal equipment, Antakarana, does not get perturbed, does not get disturbed, does not get shaken up when the sorrows hit such a person's life, when the sorrows come in the life of such a person. That's the first effect Bhagavan said. Now the second effect Bhagavan said is that Sukheshu Vigata Spruha. This person will not hanker over, will not be deeply attached to objects, situations and things which give happiness to such a person. Sukheshu. So I told you two things in the last session. And Dukheshu Anudvigna Manaha, when we say, Dukha is something when it hits us, the first thing all our energies concentrate upon and run towards is to throw this dukkha outside our system. That's why I use the word ut and udveg. Veg means with the pace, the speed we call it. Ut means to throw. So the first thing, and I gave you the example of some dirt getting into the eyes. The first thing the whole body will concentrate is through tears or through splashing water or through whatever it is. It will try to throw that thing which has gone stuck into the eye outside. So that's what it's meant. So the moment dukkha hits us, the first thing our entire system will try to run towards is to throw it out. And on the contrary, when a sukha or a happiness comes in our life, what is our approach at that time? The moment happiness comes in our life, the first thing which our mind will want to do is to hold on to it. Right? That's what Bhagavan said, spruha. That is called spruha. The effort to hold on or hanker over the objects and people and situation of our pleasure, of our happiness is what is called spruha. So these two can be seen as effect actually. But what is the cause? The cause is what Bhagavan has mentioned in the third quarter line, that why this man of realization is able to become like this, that dukkeshu anudvigna manaha sukheshu vigata spruha. The cause is actually vita raga bhaya krodha. This man of realization has already crossed over, has already gone over, has already eliminated these three things from his life. Vita means has crossed over, has already gone over. What is the first thing? Now I told you in the last session also, we must recognize what Bhagavan is saying here in the correct sequence. I told you in Bhagavad Gita, not even a single word is said, without a reason. Everything has to be understood in its correct construct. Now we need to think over one thing. Why Bhagavan put raga first, bhaya and krodha are afterwards. Raga means attachment. Bhaya means fear. Krodha means anger. These are the three ways we need to understand these words. Now what do you mean by actually raga? Why did Bhagavan put that at first thing? Actually speaking, raga or the attachment is actually the cause of every other problem in our life. Dukkha also happens from there and sukha also comes from there. The core thing, the thing which is at the core of all these things, the core emotion or the core feeling which is there, which is the foundation of all these things to come up in our life, is actually raga, attachment. Now what do you mean by raga? When a person has got emptiness in his life, emptiness means not contented and fulfilled on his own with himself, means there is an emptiness. That is what we call in Hindi is khalipan. When a person has got emptiness in his life, his or her life, then that person will, another thing which comes out of that emptiness is what? That person will look for something to actually depend upon. He will look for a ashray. He will look for an abode where he can gain that what he is not having within himself. If we do not have sukha, we will try to get sukha from outside. Okay, I'm coming to the core problem as I move along with this. So that this person who's got emptiness in himself or herself, will look for or would want to be dependent on something outside for his or her happiness. Okay, and what will this person depend upon? Something which gives him or her happiness. Now, from which this person is going to gain happiness, for on which this person is going to be dependent for his or her happiness, it is natural that that source of happiness will become like a do and die situation for him to protect. Okay, that will become a question of his life and death. That thing which is the source of his happiness will become a matter of life and death for that person. Why? Because depending on that only, this person is deriving happiness to continue his life. I told you one thing in one of the sessions, that one of the things which we all need and which is our basic need in life is happiness. Right? Amongst the few things I told you in one of the sessions, that one is the continuity of life. The next thing is we all want happiness. And I told you another thing was freedom also. Then we want to be independent also. The freedom is what that was spoken about. So here, that which becomes the source of happiness for a person, that becomes a matter of life and death for that person. At any cost, this person would want to protect it. Why? Because on that source is what his life is dependent upon. Because that becomes the source of happiness for such a person. When his happiness is dependent on that thing, it is natural that this person will have lot of emotion towards this particular source. Will always have a soft corner towards this source. Will always have this heavily weighing on this person's mind. Will always have this source in the thought of this person, and what will this person do? Would want to hold on to it. Right? Will do anything and everything to hold on to this, because from there is where he is deriving happiness from. That can be probably an object, can be a person, can be a situation. So when I say thing, I'm going to say will hold on to that thing which is giving happiness. When I say the word thing, you need to understand the thing is not necessarily an object. It can be a person also, it can be an object also, it can be a situation also, situation in life also, which gives happiness. That person wants to hold on to it. So this person will become automatically, this person's emotion is going to flow towards that object which has become source of happiness for this person, and he or she would want to hold on to it. It can be any of those things. It can be things which I told you, any of those three things which I spoke about. Now, with respect to that thing which is giving happiness to this person will slowly, gradually start to become bound to it. Okay, we call it paradhinta. Swadhin means independent. Paradhinta means become dependent. Dependent means becoming bound to it. Why will it become bound to? Well, this person will become bound because this thought process will start to flow in his or her mind, that what am I going to do in life without this thing? How will I live my life peacefully and happily without this thing? I can't live without this thing. I cannot survive without these things. This is what is called raga. This is the definition of raga. Raga means attachment is a very literal way I can explain it in English, but actually raga means this. In such a case, such a situation of bondage to this kind of a thing, such a person will actually start to take sides of that person, of that thing. Okay, even if there is shortcoming in that thing, and I told you when I say thing, please don't take it thing only. I'm categorizing it in one so that you don't tell me later on that, and don't point out at me saying that how did I say a person is a thing. No, I'm only broadly classifying. Like I'm trying to coin one word which I can include all the three. So when I say thing, person, situation and object, all are included in that. So what happens to this person? This person will automatically always try to protect this thing. Protect means even if there is shortcoming, this person will try to justify, and all those kind of things happens. Okay, because this person cannot move away from this thing, because he's placed his dependence on that for becoming the source of happiness for him. Remember one thing, one thing you must remember here is, the thing is not those things which I told you, it is not about the thing. It is about the happiness coming from that. the dependence of this person, because this person identifies that thing amongst those three, any of those things being the source of happiness, so he misunderstands that that is my happiness. But actually, happiness is not in that thing. It is his attachment which gives him happiness from there. There's a very long discussion about that in Nyaya Shastra, which I'll cover when Bhagwan takes it up going forward. As we move along Bhagavad Gita, we'll see that. So this person will not be able to be separated from this thing which is becoming a source of his happiness. Now, that thing which is on which this person has got this thought of attachment or an emotion of attachment or a feeling of attachment, there are two kinds of feelings or emotions which come out of that. That is what is mentioned as Bhaya and Krodha. You see, I told you why Bhagwan has coined it that way. There are two kinds of following thoughts which come out of this is feeling of raga, feeling of attachment, feeling of liking, feeling of, you can say in many ways. So there are two kind of following thoughts, two kind of emotions or feelings which follow this thought, follow this emotion of raga, follow this feeling of raga, and those two things are coined by Bhagwan as Bhaya and Krodha. Okay, now let me explain what is Bhaya here in the context of this raga or attachment. Now the first thing which comes out of that thing is, because I have placed this as the source of my happiness, and I started to become dependent on that source of happiness for my happiness in life, the first thing which will come in my mind is the fear of losing it. Because it's my source of happiness and I don't want to lose that at all. The second thing which comes as a following thought is, which Bhagwan has coined also correctly in the same order, is when somebody creates an obstacle in that thing remaining close to me, that thing remaining with me, that thing continuing with me, when somebody creates an obstacle, the immediate emotion and thought or feeling which comes out from there, from that raga, is krodha, anger. Okay. Now this thing is very dear to me. Raga means it's very dear to me. Why? Because I placed my happiness on that thing. I'm dependent on it for happiness in my life. So since that becomes the source of happiness, I would want to ensure everything possible in my life to protect its continuity and ensure that it remains with me in my life. Till the time I am alive, it remains with me. Means what? When I feel there is a fear of losing something, when I feel that, I have a doubt, I think I may lose something, at that time, immediately one emotion or feeling arises in us that is called bhaya, which is fear. Now, worldly person actually looks for happiness outside. Now, remember one thing, when I use these words here, do not forget the context of the last verse also. Remember what line Bhagwan used for there. I want to bring it and highlight it every now and then because that has got direct relation to this verse. This man of realization has moved over raga, bhaya, and he's moved over raga forever, attachment forever. Because attachment is not there, bhaya and krodha is not going to be there. Why? Because unless and until attachment is there, if there is no attachment, there is no reason for fear and there is no reason for anger. Now, why this man of realization has moved over raga and it's continuing or following emotions and feelings of bhaya and krodha? Because he is, as said in the third quarter of the last verse, atmanyev atmana tushtaha. This man has got nothing called emptiness in himself. Has got no emptiness in himself or herself. He is already contented, fulfilled and happy with his self alone. So he no longer depends on outside things, which is like outside objects, people, or situations to actually gain happiness in life. For a worldly man, happiness corely depends, or happiness primarily comes from outside. See, that's the difference between a man of realization and us. For worldly people like us, because we have emptiness within us, we have not reached that level of Atmanye Vatmana Tushtaha. We have not reached the level of fulfillment with our own self. Our own self means not Antakarana I'm talking about, the supreme consciousness, the self within us. That's why we depend for happiness. We corely or mainly depend for happiness, or we mostly depend, or I would say, we depend always for happiness on outside things. Since we depend on happiness for outside things, every moment this fear exists in us. That I hope this person, this thing, this situation remains in my life. I hope I'm capable to protect it. I hope I will never be devoid of such things. I hope I will be not devoid of happiness in my life. So, every moment we live in this fear of trying to protect that source of happiness from where happiness, we become dependent on happiness for. As far as one makes an effort to free oneself from attachment, the more one person is free from attachment, the amount of fear in that person is inversely proportional to it's directly proportional to the amount of dispassion this person has got. That's why you will see in the previous verses also, Bhagwan has spoke Nirvedam, and he spoke many things, Niryogatchemam. So many things he spoke about, because dispassion is something which Bhagwan is trying to bring up every now and then. Janma Bandha Vinirmukta, Karma Phala Mukta. He said so many things in the previous verses. Why? Because so long as we are able to free ourselves from attachment, so long will the quantity of fear reduce in us. It is directly proportional to the amount of attachment or raga within us. As far as we are, as long as and as high as we are free from attachment, and so far we will be free from fear. And one can start to imagine when there is a situation in our life when we are completely free from attachment. Trust me, with Bhagwan's word I'm telling you, fear will completely cease to exist in your life. If raga or attachment is zero or nil, trust me, there is no place for fear in your life. I'm telling you, fear cannot exist in your life. That's the way I'll say. Fear actually arises from attachment only. The core thing, the thing which is at the core, the emotion or feeling which is at the core of all these kind of thought modifications is actually nothing but attachment. Fear arises from attachment alone. And what arises it? That which is dear to me, the doubt or the probability of losing in that thing, which is the source of happiness for me. And when I feel that I am not capable enough to protect that thing from continuing to remain in my life, at that time, this feeling of fear arises in us. Remember, two things there. First and foremost, see, there are three things we need to understand here. First, there is at the core something called attachment. And the attachment came from where? When I identified something as the source of my happiness, and I start to get attached to that thing, I start to get near and near to that thing, and I want to maintain that thing in my life. The second thing which comes from there is when I have the doubt that I may lose this thing, something which arises in me is fear. And the reason why fear arises in me is not only because I have the doubt of losing that thing. Along with the doubt of losing that thing, I know for sure that I do not have the capability to protect that thing or to fight it from losing. These two things combined, fear of losing that thing along with the knowledge of being non-capable to protect it or not capable to actually fight it to remain in my life, that is when this feeling or emotion of bhaya or the fear arises in me. But on the other side, there is a doubt of losing that thing. I'm just continuing it to krodha now. What permutation combination and gives rise to bhaya or fear, and what permutation combination gives rise to anger or krodha. I have the fear of losing something, or I have the doubt that I know there is a probability that I may lose something, but I have the capability to fight it out. I have the capability to make it remain in my life, right? I have the ability to do that. I have the samarthya to actually protect that thing or fight out that this thing remains in my life. When I have that thing, at that time, the emotion or feeling which comes in my mind, in my intellect, arises in my intellect is krodha. I will have anger towards that object, which is an obstruction, and in between me and that source of happiness remaining in my life. Now you see why Bhagwan used Vita, Raga, Bhaya and Krodha in that sequence. And this is the reason I told you I'm going slow in here, because there are all these verses are like ocean in itself. We can talk for days on these things, but I have to cover the topic also, so I'll see how much I can give, but I'll try to give as much so that you've got a clarity on what it actually means. Now you understand why Bhagwan used it in this particular order. The first thing which comes out of raga is bhaya. And the first feeling or emotion which comes out of attachment or raga is actually bhaya. And the second kind of feeling or emotion which comes out of this attachment is krodha, anger. Okay. Now, if there is a capability in me, I am capable to fight out things, then, I would want to put every effort actually to protect that thing which is the source of my happiness. Okay. And if I have the ability, and I will put every effort to actually protect that thing. And if somebody creates an obstruction in this and want to actually harm me means is move away happiness from my life, or eliminate happiness from my life, or destroy happiness from my life, want to do bad for me because he's wanting to make me sorrowful or remove happiness from my life, that qualification and which I have of ability, my intellect, with that qualification of ability to fight it out, will generate something in this. In our antakarana or intellect is what is called anger. Now you see how rich our Sanatan Dharma is, how vast our Sanatan Dharma is. According to Sanatan Dharma, all the kind of thought modifications which arise in our life, actually at the core of it is actually attachment. You can think of any thought modification which comes. I told you about Shad Vikara, the 6 kind of modification, right? What is that? Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Right? Kama means desire. Constantly engaging in pleasure or desire is Kama. Literally most of people translate Kama as lust, but that's not correct. Lust is an acute form of kama. It's only kamna only in an acute form. In a tamasic form is actually lust. It's not in kamna. Kama is not put in a very bad parlance, because when we say dharma, artha, kama, moksha, it's in the 4 purusharth also kama is there. So that can't mean lust there. Lust is a very acute form, very grave form, very gross form of most gross form of actually desire is actually lust. But never mind. So what I'm trying to say is all kind of thought modifications actually arise from the core or feeling of attachment. At the core of actually everything is actually attachment. Now let me just tell you one more thing along with it. Yes, it's true that all thought modifications arise from the attachment only, from our raga only. But why even raga arises? That's what we need to understand. Raga arises from the feeling of being not fulfilled, the feeling of being not contented. I'm not content. The feeling of not feeling contented is actually not feeling contented, not feeling fulfilled is actually the core of why even attachment is also there. Why that feeling of not non-contentment or non-fulfillment is there? At the core of that is actually not knowing the self, or the ignorance of the self is at the core of feeling non-contented or non-fulfilled. Remember one thing, I would say one thing at many places, and as we move along also, self is not something which you have to gain. It's not something which you don't have. It's already there with you all the time. It's always there with you all the time. Even when you're sleeping also, it's there with you. Even when you are conscious, unconscious, subconscious, all three states the self is with you. Then what is that which is not there? So, gaining self doesn't mean that it's like going and buying an object. You don't have to gain the self from outside. You have to only wipe out the ignorance in you. The self is already in you. When the ignorance is wiped out, the self starts to shine forth in you. So when we talk about the man of realization, when I told you this man of realization has already understood that this world is mithya, means the world is false, means what? Bhagavan will say as we move along also in the continuing verses as well, and in the upcoming verses as well, and we'll bring that up. Means what? Since the ignorance is dispelled away, ignorance is washed away, this world is nothing but our ignorance only. When the ignorance is washed away means what? World is washed away. The world is washed away means what? The self is effulgent. The self is shining forth in that person. And the self alone is, and the world loses its color, loses its actually visibility also, loses its actually stand. It fades away. I'll use this word. Actually, this is a better word to use. Actually, the world fades away in the in the effulgence of the self, in the light of that consciousness. So, at the core of everything is actually the ignorance of the self. From ignorance of the self arises the thing called non-fulfillment or non-contentment. From that arises a need to look for a source of happiness outside. From that arises attachment. From attachment arise all the other kind of thought modifications which I spoke about a few minutes back. So all kind of modifications arise from that. So the first thing which comes is actually attachment. First thing which comes is actually desire. The moment, let me explain you how the other modifications also come out. So you will have a feel of how it is. Even though Bhagavan will cover, so I'll cover at that time in elaboration. But let me just give you a feel of how these thought modifications arise. The first thing which comes out of ignorance of self is non-fulfillment, non-contentment. From non-fulfillment, non-contentment, there arises something called desire of happiness. From the desire of happiness, then your BMI, your mind and intellect, your antakarna, along with the body, along with senses and prana, etc., start to look for source of happiness outside. Because ultimately we all want to be fulfilled and contented, no? So now just think this way. The moment and the object of desire is gained by you. Okay, you gain the object. Object can be object of desire, people of desire or situation of desire. The thing of desire has been gained by you. The next thing which will come is you want to continue to maintain it or you want more of it. Desire can never be fulfilled by its fulfillment, by acting on the desires. It's like putting in, clarified butter in the fire. Even though clarified butter is liquid, but it's not going to dose the fire. It's only going to flame up the fire. Fulfillment of desire is like that. And this is very, very elaborately, explained in Srimad Bhagavat, along with a story of someone, and it is elaborately mentioned there, that desire can never be fulfilled by actually fulfilling a desire. It will only going to go up. So what happens with fulfillment of desire? Another thing in which comes up is that I want more of it. So another thought or another emotion or feeling which arises from this is lobha, greed. I want it to remain with me forever. I don't want anybody else to have any portion of it. And when that thing is disturbed or some hindrances has come in between, and at that time, and something which arises in that is something called dukkha. Dukkha means sorrow. Now, remember one thing, when we see that something is going to actually disturb that, something is going to actually remove the thing from me, something is going to obstruct that object of desire, from remaining with me, the thing which is going to come inside us is actually called bhaya. Now, fear or bhaya, we need to understand it's always a futuristic thought. It's always pertaining to future. Remember one thing, bhaya is never for the current. Fear is never for the current. Fear is always about the future. It's always about the future. Means what? The fear of losing it, that it will not remain with me. It will not be with me in the future. It's always a futuristic thought. It will always be about a future. That's why it is called, it's a bhavishyavarti vritti. Till the time there is a doubt or there is a probability that I may lose the object of desire, the object of attachment, till that time the fear will always pervade. Fear will pervade till the period, from the period the doubt or probability of losing the object of my attachment arise in my mind, till the time the object is lost, I will have fear. Once it is lost, now why I told you it is a futuristic thought, it is always about the future. Once an object is lost, at that time bhaya will not be there, because it's already lost. Fear cannot be pertaining to present. Fear will always be about the future. The moment and that object on which I was fearing that it may lose, and I end up losing it, immediately at that time, and something which will arise in me is dukkha. Dukkha means sorrow. Because that desire has been disturbed, desire has been obstructed, dukkha will arise. And from dukkha, the first thing which will come is, if I have the ability to take revenge, or if I have the ability to fight it for it, if I have ability to, teach a lesson to that person who obstructed it, the second thing which will come inside me is krodha. Krodha means anger, which I already spoke about a few minutes back. And what I will do, I'll manifest that thought into action, because I'll express that krodha. I can express physically, I can express verbally. There are many ways to express it also. That is the expression side, but actually the thought or the emotion or the feeling behind it is what? Anger. But if I do not have the ability to fight it out or take a revenge or to punish that person who obstructed it, then the other emotion which will come from this is, loss is, this dukkha is chobha. Chobha means regret. The regret will remain with me. The regret will be that, probably if I could have the ability, I should have worked towards gaining the ability actually to protect it. I would have fought it out. If I could have done something different to protect it, that is called regret. It will remain, and till the time the loss is there, till the time you are able to come out of that attachment with that thing, this shobha will remain. So either krodha, anger, or shobha. These are the only, not shobha, chobha. Shobha means regret. This regret will remain. All the kind of emotions or feelings which come out is actually, all of them are related to attachment only. Remember one thing, without attachment, bhaya, fear, lobha, greed, shobha, regret, krodha, anger, dukkha, sorrow, nothing of these are possible. And why, a man of realization does not have this? Because Bhagavan said in the previous verse 55, Atmanyeva cha santushtaha. This person, this jnani, this man of realization is always fulfilled and contented within himself, with the self. That's why his antakarana, his inner equipment, do not have any space for raga, space for attachment. You don't need attachment. Remember one thing which Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji in the last verse in his Bhashya said, Alam pratyaya. No, it's not. I don't need it. Enough. I had enough of it. I don't need it. The thing is, when we fulfill our desire, this alam pratyaya never comes to us. Has anyone, okay, let me just ask you an example. Those people who run after money, can you ever think that they will stop at any point in time? Very difficult. That alam, how much money you need for your present, future, your generations also, even after that also, this alam pratyaya never comes. That it's enough never comes. Those who are rich continue to grow up to more richer and richer and richer. See, this alam pratyaya never comes with objects at all. This jnani doesn't have a space for attachment, doesn't need to have attachment, has got no environment in his antakarana for any kind of desire to sprout out. So when I use such words, remember, don't take it verbatim. It's like a desert land where nothing grows. Why it's a desert land? Not that Mahatma is that jnani or the man of realization is a dry person. No, that's not what I meant. I'm only trying to give you simile to explain you how it is. Doesn't have a space, no space this person, man of realization, has got for any kind of attachment to even enter the mind. Remember what Bhagavan said in the last verse, as you must have seen. He says, is prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan. See, Bhagavan used the word kaman. All kind of desires, this man of realization has already prajahati, prakarshena jahati, has already crossed over forever. Sarvan partha manogatan, all the kind of desires which could ever enter this person or had ever entered this person has already prajahati, has already crossed over all of them. Why? Because those desires have no space, they have no charm, they have no effulgence, they have no shine, they have no attraction in front of the effulgence or the bliss arising out of the supreme consciousness, the self within. That's why, since this man of realization has got no space at all in his inner equipments for any kind of desires, any kind of attachment, that's why all the other kind of emotions and feelings which arise out of the core emotion and feeling being attachment, they also cease to exist. They also never appear in such a Mahatma, in such a man of realization. Sthitadihi vitaraga bhaya krodha. A man of realization, a man of self-knowledge, a man who has known the self-knowledge has already crossed over all these kind of modifications, thought modifications, emotions and feeling. That's why this man of realization is dukkheshu anudvigna manaha. His mind does not get perturbed or does not get shaken up by the adversity. And sukheshu vigatas prihaha, and does not hanker after the pleasures. He does not have spriha for the objects of happiness or the source of happiness. In the context of dukkha and sukha, this is the kind of reaction a jnani, a man of realization, has in the event of sorrow, his mind does not get perturbed, does not get shaken up. In the event of happiness, his mind does not hanker upon, does not chase after that object to keep it with him. Both these things. Now remember why Bhagwan is bringing out these kind of elaborations and these kind of details about a jnani. That also you need to understand. I told you when in one of the podcasts where I explained BMI chart, and in subsequent podcasts also I brought it up actually. Remember one thing, that the entire B, M and I are made out of combination of the 5 elements. And I told you in one of the sessions, since that which is made out of whatever thing will gain fulfillment from that thing only. Okay, that's one thing which I told you. The self or the soul of us or the me, as in my core self, has not come out of the 5 elements. So its fulfillment also can never be from the 5 elements. And I told you in one of the podcasts. Why I'm bringing it up, I'm trying to explain it to you here. Now, why Bhagwan is mentioning such a thing about Dukkeshu Anudvigna Manaha Sukheshu Vigata Spriha? Mind and intellect are a product of combination of 5 elements, which the combination of 5 elements is what we call in the common parlance as nature. See here, when I say nature, I'm talking about the external nature. I'm not talking about the nature of a person here. Please decipher that here. Of course, when we say some people will behave in certain way, we call them, that's his nature. Some person remains quiet in many things. We say that's his nature to remain quiet. That's his nature to remain happy in everything. That's his nature to be angry at everything. So there are so many things we can speak about. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Prakriti as in the nature, the external nature. Now, since mind and intellect are a product of the nature, how it will act will also be according to the nature. Okay, why I'm bringing it up? See, why I'm spending so much of time to explain you this, that there are minute things hidden here, which you need to just catch. So if you don't get in once this podcast, no, please listen to it again. I told it in the group also. When there is a delay of episodes being published, because episodes are published according to the availability of my time, and when there is a delay, please spend some time actually to listen to the previous episodes, because the more you listen, the more clarity you will get. Because my time it will work according to that only. So that's not the point here. What I'm trying to say is, since mind and intellect are a product of the nature, it will work according to the nature only. So the normal tendency, and according to the nature, the natural thing for a mind to act is, whenever the dukkha comes, udveg will come. Okay. See, here when I say udveg, please don't generalize and say, oh, then you said it, udveg will come, so how, bad am I? I'm doing the same thing. No, that's not what I meant. I'm only talking about udveg as, the kind of thought which comes to throw it out. That thought will come. We will always feel shaken up by it. But how much affected you will be, that depends on something else. And that is what I wanted to bring out here. So the thing is, the natural tendency or the nature, according to the nature, the thing which comes up in our antakarana, our inner equipment, is whenever the dukkha comes, udveg will come. Okay? And whenever sukha comes, whenever happiness comes, the other thought process we will run after it actually to hold on to it. This is a natural kind of a reaction, natural kind of a thing which is there in the nature itself. According to nature, that's what it is about. The default nature I will use it, the normal nature I'll use it. Now, the moment it is said, why is then Bhagwan is saying that, Jnani will be Dukkeshu Anudvigna Manaha? Means what? This Jnani is not out acting in the natural way, right? Remember one thing I told you in one of the podcasts also, when I say, there are 3 things which we usually use. Okay. Normal, below normal, and above normal. Okay. So we may use some people as above normal, that's true. but there is something which we call as below normal also. But I will, some people replace that below normal as abnormal. But actually I will coin abnormal as even below normal. So abnormal is completely different. I'm not talking about that at all. Here let me take these three gradations here: normal, above normal, and below normal. And I'll put Jnani here, the man of realization, here above normal. Why above normal? Because the natural way to act is when dukkha comes, our mind will be sorrowful, will be shaken up, and will be perturbed. The quantum of it may be differ from person to person depending upon their capability, which I'll come later on. But this is the natural reaction which is there. Then why is Bhagwan saying this man of realization is not going to be like that? Because this man of realization has already grown above the normal nature, has already grown above the nature of the things made within him, the body, mind, and intellect has already gone above them. So why it is set for Jnani? It is set for Jnani or man of realization this way because that is a goal for a seeker. A seeker needs to work towards it. Why I use the word seeker? Let me just bring it up here only now. A seeker means one who has started the process of walking the path of self-discovery. Let me use this way. I have coined this word, our rishis have coined this word called vertical growth. But I would say started, so I can't say already started the thing on vertical growth, but I'm saying started the process or started to walk on the path of self-discovery. This is the word I'll use. In that path of self-discovery is where the vertical growth comes. Starting point is the base zero, no? And then we go up, that's what is vertical growth all about. Anyway, so the point is, this sadhak, the moment the person has started to walk the path of self-discovery, the first thing we need to remember is dukkha will come. Why? Because he is not yet realized. Okay, he's already started gaining the knowledge. He's not become Atmanishta here. Then why is it set for a Mahatma and what is it for a seeker here? Yes, dukkha will come. The seeker's attempt or effort should be what? That he should control the udvega. Control the disturbance which is created in his mind. He controls that, is not shaken up too much, is not completely plowed over by the dukkha. So he has to control that. And the second thing this seeker has to work towards is has to stop himself from expressing it. He has to escape from expressing that. Expressing what? Expressing the udveg which is created in his mind. See, the thing is, you can just think of yourself. Whenever you have sorrow, what do? There are multiple kind of people. I don't want to bring it up here. Some go and sit with friends and cry out. Let me just pick up the higher example first. Some people go and sit with God and cry out. Okay, and discuss and share with God. That's a higher level of doing it. Sadhak's best way is that. Some other people will go and sit with friends. Some people will try to, distract their mind into hobbies. But there are worse kind of things. Somebody will drink over it. See, those things are not right. I'm not talking about those things at all. But the thing is, this sadhak's effort should be one to control it. That, the udvek should be lesser and lesser over a period of time. I should not be shaken up too much. My magnitude of being shaken up should also start reducing. That's the first effort this sadhak or seeker has to put. The second effort this seeker has to put is what? Or that should escape from actually expressing it outside. Remember one thing, when I say it is nature, we can become habitual or habituated to a situation. But remember one thing, we can never become habituated to sorrow. We cannot never have a habit of sorrow. Oh, now it doesn't matter, I'm habituated to it. It doesn't work like that. Since it doesn't work like that we cannot get habituated to dukkha, that's why I'm saying in a normal parlance, in a natural way of reaction, udveg will come. Udveg will arise out of sorrow which comes in our life. So sorrow will come, so udveg will also come. At that time, what we need to do is, we have to understand that our intellect should not hold on to that udvega. Means, should not keep it in the memory for long period. Of course, udvega means what? It wants to throw it out, right? At that time, what happens with this person is the moment a sorrow hits us, the first thing we will try is to throw it out. The throw it out has got many ways. I'm coming to that point later on. Veg means I told you it's the pace at which it is thrown out. Ut means to throw away. In our intellect, our inner equipment, there is something which has fallen into it or which has entered that intellect, which our intellect wholeheartedly wants to throw out. Okay? Doesn't want to accept it at all. Doesn't want to keep it in mind. That's why to express it, to throw it out, it wants to express it in some way or some form or the manner. What do you mean by express it in some form? I told you the ways. One will go and cry at the temple. Somebody may sit with a friend and take it out. Oh, take it out means what? It's actually sharing. But when we give out that, the thing is we want to throw it out. So sometimes we share with friends also. Sometimes we share with God what? We want divine blessings and grace to come out of it. Of course, remember one thing I told in my group also very loud and clear. You may have a puja room in your home. Doing puja every day there is definitely very, very good and you must do. But remember, I keep telling in my group to all the Sanatan Dharmis, even if you have a puja room and you do daily prayers, please make it a point to visit the temple at least once or twice a week, minimum. The more you can do, the better it is. Why? Some people give the excuse, I have puja room in my home, then why should I go to the temple? Remember, your puja room does not have prana pratishtha, does not have mantra, ucharan, abhishek, bhoga and all going on, being bhog offered to Bhagwan going on every day and none. Temples, there is a nitya puja going on. There are mantra chantings going on. There is abhishek going on. Of course, the divinity there is much more. And that divinity definitely touches us when we go to the temple. You may sit at home and meditate. Just, replace it by going to the temple and meditating. See, if you can't sit in a crowded place, that's a different story. But I'm telling you, go and find a time in the temple when it is a little bit empty and all. Go and sit there. Trust me, your level of meditation will completely be different. Definitely that grace and blessings sincerely helps. It definitely helps. So, the natural reaction of the mind is to actually throw out this thing which is trying to give us this kind of a sorrow. And I give you the example of things falling in the eye and all. The same thing, if we are eating something and something gets stuck in our throat, the first thing the whole body will concentrate upon is to throw it out. That is the natural reaction of the body. Now, on the contrary to that, when the sukha comes, when the happiness comes, the reaction is completely opposite. See, this dukkha comes, we want to throw it out. Sukha comes, we want to hold it on. When the happiness comes to our life, the natural reaction of our intellect is to hold on to it. Let this remain, If it remains, as long as it remains, I'll be able to remain happy. We may have not done a clear analysis yet, but I'm telling you, this is a natural reaction which comes. This is what is called as spriha. Spriha means the thought of holding on to happiness, or the thought that happiness should continually remain with me. Happiness should continually remain, and I should be in the happy state for a longer period of time. I should always gain happiness. These kind of things are called, to hold on to such things is called actually spriha. These two things I spoke about of dukkha and sukha, they are the natural reaction of our inner equipment, our mind, intellect, ego and memory. Okay. When the sorrow comes, udveg will be there. Definitely all effort will be there to throw it out. And when the happiness comes, there will be an all-out effort to hold on to it. Now, in a jnani, in a man of realization, these normal reactions, these normal natural things is not there, does not exist in a man of realization. Then the question will come is, ultimately, mind and intellect of a jnani is also coming from Prakriti. then why that natural reaction is not there in this jnani? And the other name of sorrow is situation. And sorrows always, we will try to do what? We will try to associate our sorrow with either a thing, a person, or a situation. Isn't that what we do today? Now, in the case of a man of realization, what happens vis-a-vis us worldly people here? What happens in this man of realization? The man of realization looks at situation as a situation, does not see any situation as a cause of his sorrow, disassociates things means object, person, or situation, as being the cause of his or her sorrow. It does not remain to be a cause of his sorrow. Why? Because he is no longer an enjoyer. He is, okay, let me not use the word enjoyer so much. Enjoyment then comes for happiness only. Okay, let me just replace that word is, he is no longer an experiencer. He is no longer an experiencer. Why? Since he is no longer an experiencer, he is no longer a doer too. And this Bhagwan has said in the verse number 19 when Bhagwan brought up. When he brought up, Ya enam veti hantaram, yaschainam manyate hatam, bhautau na vijanitah, nayam hanti na hanyate. Nayam hanti na hanyate means what? That the self is neither a doer, or neither, hanti means neither kills, I am hantina hanyate, neither gets killed. Means what? It's neither a doer nor an experiencer. Means what? It's neither it kills nor does it get killed, nor it becomes the effect of somebody else's action. That's what it means. Experience of somebody else's action. So this man of realization, and the thing is what? This man of realization is no longer an experiencer. Okay. Since he is no longer an experiencer, he is no longer a doer, that's why his experience is not the natural experience. His reaction is not the natural reaction. Since he is no longer an experiencer, he no longer identifies a situation, thing, or person as the cause of his sorrow or happiness, so doesn't act against it at all. Only sees the situation as a situation alone. There are certain things which we can apply in the management world, but I'll take it up some other time. Probably from this only I can bring it out that how in the corporate arena, what kind of a work culture we can create. It can also come out from these verses, but we'll take it up some other time when it comes. Otherwise, I'll not be able to complete the verse that I have to think of also. So Bhagwan says, happiness and sorrow will have its importance only when we have something called I am the doer or I am the experiencer. A situation or a thing will only touch that person who is still an experiencer. If you are an experiencer, then only your inner equipment will translate it into sukha and dukkha, the situations which come outside. In this man of realization, and his abidance in the self, his knowledge of the self is so ripened, his Sankhya Buddhi is so firm that this man of realization has already got abidance in the self. And when we see this man of realization from his level, remember, don't assess a man of realization from our level, because that level we may not be able to assess at all. Assess the man of realization from his level. If you see a man of realization from his level, you will not see that his reaction and of dukkheshu anudvigna mana, as Bhagwan said, and sukheshu vigatas praha is unnatural, or is not living as a normal person at all. you will see that it is far above normal scenario, far above nature. This man has already crossed over everything. From the state where the jnani or a man of realization is, this jnani is not an experiencer at all. That's why when dukkha comes, his mind not getting perturbed or not getting shaken up is natural. This is his natural reaction. Now, for a sadhak, for a seeker who is putting effort towards it, for such a seeker, what will be the case? Let's take that example also, to explain this particular verse so that we can see how this verse translates into. For a sadhak who has put lot of efforts, who spent a lot of time trying to gain this kind of a clarity, gain this kind of firmness, gain this kind of a intellectual position to gain the Sankhya Buddhi, for such a sadhak, for such a seeker, when sorrows arise out of situation, this seeker may not get perturbed or shaken up like any normal being. His quantum of being shaken up or getting perturbed will be different from a normal human being. Why? Because this person has put effort towards it. It is different than the normal being, but can you still say that this person has become, he's crossed over becoming an experiencer, is not an experiencer anymore? No, you can't say that. This person is not crossed over being the experiencer and doer yet. His doership and experiencership has not been destroyed yet. And so this person, the seeker, is actually in a middle state right now. He's definitely above the normal and definitely not reached the state of a man of realization. That means what? His impact by the dukkha, by the sorrow when it comes, impact on the mind is not going to be that much, which is of a normal person. And remember, that has come because of his constant practice. One example I can give you is, you see heat and cold. Now you see people in the world, everybody's reaction or everybody's, feeling of the heat and cold is different. Some people in the summers, they can't, really bear the heat because their body is not immune to heat. I'll use the word immune here. Immunity is what I'll use here as a word. Puja Guruji Swami Subodhananji used to say it very beautifully. There we need to understand there is something called immune system in us. I'm going to explain that at here itself. So we'll see that, there are people who feel in the summer season, they feel more warm than other people, more hot than other people. And on the contrary, some people in the winters feel more colder than the other people. They are they can't bear cold. It is all the different immune system of the body, the different bearing capacity of the body. Immune system can be translated bearing capacity also. Why I brought up immune system here, let me just pick that example also. See, some things are natural, okay? But there is something called, we can build our immunity towards something also. Now, in the worldly also, you will see certain people's reaction to sorrows is much polished. They are much matured. Why? It's not that they are above normal yet. No, out of constant practice, they've raised their immunity. Why I'm saying that, this is a very beautiful example I can pick up now. We all in the whole world was impacted by something called corona. Okay. There was a lot of hue and cry on corona that, protect yourself, do this, do that and all. In the midst of corona also, I am personally privy to some people whose immunity was so good that in spite of the fact that in the house they were staying, everybody got infected, but they, without much of mask and other things also, they did not got corona at all. Vaccination, many did not even take also. See, some people out of their own reason may not have taken, but some people, their immunity is so strong. On the contrary, there are some people, Puja Guruji Swami Subodhananji used to give an example of that, which jokingly used to say There are some, virus and bacteria and all. They may be crossing from an area, and there is some person who's very low on immunity. This, bacteria or virus, while passing through the area, may say, "Oh, I'm passing through this area. I have a very, very dear friend here. Why don't I just go and meet that friend and go?" Means what? Infect that person and go. So some people's immunity is very low. See, that is the physical immunity we spoke about in terms of that. In the same way, there is something called our inner equipment immunity also. The way I translate that immunity, and I said that in my group also, is there is one thing called immunity. A little above that immunity, or a little, far above that immunity, is something called spiritual stamina, which comes only from spirituality. Some people can raise immunity by practice also, but actually the highest level of immunity comes from the spiritual stamina. Spiritual stamina is a great thing. You can't even imagine what it can do. So yes, there are people outside also who may not react to dukkha the way many people react, but that doesn't mean that they are realized. In the world, I'll tell you, some houses where I go, there are people, some people who give us an example, so and so is my husband. I would say he's a realized saint. I said, Amma, thank you very much. I think he's the only one who's realized. Rest or realized masters are nothing only. I don't know how people even define that thing. Realization is not a very small word. Many people misconstrue immunity as actually realization. That's not correct. Immunity is definitely, a seeker also has immunity, may not react to a dukkha the way normal people react. That doesn't mean that he's become a man of realization, right? He's at a middle state right now. He's walking towards that. And he's practiced to not get perturbed by it. He's practiced that, this udvek doesn't come into my mind at all. Or everybody's mind intellect also does not react to every situation the same way. As I told you about the heat and cold. Every body does not react to heat and cold in the same way. It all depends upon our own bearing capacity. It all depends on our own immunity. In the same way, because of practice, this ripened, ready seeker may not get affected by the dukkha, by the sorrow so much that the effect of the sorrow on such a seeker is actually reduced. With practice, in our inner equipment, a kind of strength is generated, kind of strength arises, a kind of strength is born, which the moment sorrow hits our intellect, it will not let the intellect get shaken up. And that's why seeker can also to an extent become anudvigna mana. His level of udvigna can be reduced. As and when this seeker practices more and more, becomes more and more ripened, the kind of effect which a dukkha, sorrow, shakes up this mind, the effect reduces. This itself is a big magic, it's a miracle in the life of a sadhak, that his udvek has gone down. As and when practice increases, we'll start realizing that the sorrow starts to affect us very less. It just comes and goes. The period of sorrow stays in mind also is very much reduced. It itself is a big miracle for the seekers. And this is also definitely not easy at all. But this is one side of it, that of course by practice we can get it. But the other side of it, Sukheshu Vigatas Praha, is very, very, very difficult. That's the point I wanted to bring out, and that's why I elaborated it so much. For a seeker, now this is where we need to understand. We are all seekers, so we all need to understand this very well. The second kind of a practice which a seeker should, move towards is this Sukheshu Vigatas Praha. Should start practicing that. It is very difficult because if, a seeker while walking the journey of spirituality starts to drop even the small sources of happiness, what will motivate this seeker to progress? I'm just asking you all. What will motivate this seeker to progress? So this is where we need to understand Gita Ji in its correct form. That this is a question which arises in us, that if he leaves the small happiness, what will keep him motivated to actually walk the path of spirituality? That's not correct. If these small kind of happiness this seeker is not able to give up, I should ask this question in the reverse way. If a seeker is not able to give up the small happiness, then how is this seeker going to progress? Why giving up of these small happiness is of prima facie importance is that these small happiness otherwise will keep the seeker engaged. And this engagement will be at the cost of his or her sadhana. The seeker will make effort to hold on or to protect to those small source of happiness. If continually the seeker's attempt is towards holding on to them, where will this seeker get the time to spend towards gaining the higher? So yes, that's why it is not about, yes, I understand initially to begin with, spirituality goes hand in hand, parallel with our worldly thing. And yes, we did, because at the start we may not see the bigger happiness from there. I'm going to come to that verse which Bhagavan says in the chapter 18 itself. Bhagavan says about Satvik Sukha. I'm going to come to that, I'll explain you there. So the thing is, when we start the spiritual journey, these small sources of happiness keeps us going to an angle. After that, we have to slowly, gradually practice. First to the level that Dukkheshu, we should stop getting affected by a sorrow so much, and then slowly, gradually move towards actually moving away from these small sources of happiness, or giving up these small sources of happiness. If this person, this seeker, is stuck in these small sources of happiness, how will this person, this seeker, gain the highest or the ultimate source of happiness? These small sources of happiness will keep this seeker so much engaged that this person may not get the zeal to move towards the ultimate source of happiness. He will always get stuck up among them. Even those people who are able to stop or protect themselves from being shaken up at the level of sorrow, even those people find it very difficult to move away from the source of happiness or not get attached to the source of happiness. In the characteristics of a Sthita Prajna, we need to understand what Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji said in the Bhashya in verse 54, Tani eva sadhanani upadishyante. These qualities of a realized master is elaborated by Bhagavan as arising out of the question of Arjun only for one reason, that these are sadhana. These are efforts to be put by us in that direction for us to gain that level. These characteristics are only explained as our own sadhana to be put in. In the event of sorrow and happiness, a man of realization is equanimous. Why? Because he's no longer an experiencer. He's not a bhokta anymore. In his mind, equanimity is there. The cause of equanimity is what? The cause of equanimity is different from that of a seeker. For a seeker, that seeker has to make effort towards building the cause of equanimity. And Bhagavan said it in the verse number 15, Yam hi na vyathayantete. He said that, no? When he mentioned the verse over there, Yam hi na vyathayantete purusham purusharshava samadukha sukham dhiram swamrtatvaya kalpate. This is what Bhagavan said in the verse number 15, no? That for a sadhak, these are the sadhana for a sadhak. Yam hi na vyathayantete purusham purusharshava samadukha sukham dhiram so amrtatvaya kalpate. Yamhina vyatayante means in the verse 15 where I explained, verse chapter 2, verse 15, this person is not getting disturbed, is not getting shaken up by these pair of opposites which they come in this life. Like, this person has gained the immunity, is gained the capability to actually not get perturbed by these kind of pair of opposites which come in that person's life. And when he doesn't get perturbed by this, that is what will help this person to move further in his spiritual journey. That's what we need to understand here. So as mentioned by me, it is definitely out of practice we can gain the ability to not get perturbed or not get shaken up by the sorrows which come in our life. But Sukheshu Vigata Spruha, as I mentioned, is very, very difficult. Why it is difficult? I'll tell you one very important reason why it is difficult also. Spruha or the hankering is such a feeling, such an emotion which comes in us that it will never say it will never say it's enough. It will never say alam, bas. It will never say that. Why it will never say that? It's like I mentioned, putting clarified butter in the fire. A fire, the more you put that clarified butter, the fire will never say enough. The fire will actually move forward to gain more and more. It will fire up more to ask more from you. In the same way, this priha or this hankering on the source of happiness is something which will never say enough. This is the meaning of spruha, that once the object of my desire, the thing I will say, the thing means the object, situation or person of my desire, once I have gained it, our mind will never say enough. It will never say that. Rather, mind on the contrary will ask for more. There is an ad also, right? Dil mange more. I do not know how they coined that ad. I don't know why it came into my mind also. Dil mange more. That is what is priha. That is the natural tendency of our mind that will always keep asking for more. So, a person whose intellect does not desire for or more, at the time of happiness which comes into that person's life, that is where Bhagavan will call that person Vigata Spruha. For such a kind of an intellect, the internal transformation which happens is what Bhagavan has said as Vigata Spruha. You can't see these characters outside. Bhogi, Yogi, Jnani. All these three will have situations coming in their life out of their own prarabdha, which will be a combination of both sorrow and happiness. But the miracle will be when, in spite of the sorrows and happiness coming in their life, the reaction of their internal equipment, which is man, buddhi, chitta and ahankar, or the mind and intellect, is not according to the natural phenomenon, is not as defined by the nature, rather it is something which is above normal, does not act in the natural way. It means in the case of sorrow does not get udvigna, in the case of sukha, in the case of happiness does not get spruha. Remember, a man of realization neither get perturbed or neither get shaken up by the sorrows or hanker upon the objects or things of happiness. For a seeker, yes, the middle state is there. As and when more and more practice is put by this seeker, so and so the seeker will also start to gain equanimity in his life. That is what is meant by this particular verse here. Now, there is some more to this verse. Actually, I'll take it up in the next session before we move on to the next verse from there. Kayena vacha manasendriyairva buddhya atmana va prakrite swabhavat करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। श्रीमन्नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। ॐ तत्सत्।